past it now, but I have to say it.
Say
Nobody talks about shrinkage. Seinfeld? Anyone? No? Okay.
History is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now, or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
This one comes to us via Instagram. A lot of people reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter, various missives, Crossroads at Midnight, all the hits, all the good ones. And this person requested to be anonymous, and they hipped me to something that I shared with you all off air. It was somewhat strange to me because it's something I had never heard of. A lot of times we get a good idea, we're thinking, why haven't we done an episode on that? Like the ICC, I think it's crazy that they never came up in conversation. Or maybe it did back in the YouTube days. But this question, I'll just read the I'll read the pertinent bits. I had to remove some stuff to help preserve this person's identity. But if you are listening, thank you. And this is a very strange one. And just like academic journals, the piece we did earlier, which, by the way, we got some we're going to get some feedback from the world of academia on that one. But like academic journals, this idea is a little bit niche. So here it is. Anonymous from Instagram reaches out at Ben Bolin to say a TikTok trend called the hashtag read and return challenge instructs readers to read books on Amazon quickly, then return them. Amazon gladly does so, then deducts the money from those authors. This has led to an increasing number of authors and observers wondering whether Amazon is complicit in this trend, pushing authors to join their Kindle Unlimited program. Now, earlier, and this anonymous person did something I love, which is sending some sources, sending some articles that they had been reading and relaying some of their own personal experience. It reminds me of earlier this week when we were talking about how to manufacture a viral marketing trend. What if you could pull those levers, not just to try to make a middling film a success, but you could pull those levers to incentivize behavior in people. Here's the scoop. So Amazon has this thing called Kindle Unlimited. Full disclosure, I've used Kindle Unlimited for a number of years, often to get books related to various branches of research, things that are so subject specific, I'm probably not going to keep them, as a physical copy. But the story really started with someone named Lisa Kessler, who is an award-winning, very prolific author, has written 44 novels, 44 separate novels. And then earlier in June of this year, blew up with a tweet where she said, hey, just a reminder, Amazon is not a library. When you read and return a book, it costs the author. It's June 1st, says this again, successful, award-winning, prolific author. And I owe Amazon at the moment because people are reading through a series of books she wrote and returning the books when they finish. So Kessler was in an interview with BuzzFeed, and she said, this problem started around May of this year. And last month, per her, there was this swell of returns of entire series of books, and they didn't seem to be related to people not liking the actual book or accidentally buying something, which, can happen when you're shopping online. She says they ran through them and turned them back in and got their money back. This is a hustle people have done at retail stores in the past, right? Like, nobody has to admit it if you've done it, but I'm sure there are many of us listening in the audience today who maybe bought something that they were going to use over the weekend and then returned it because you just needed it for the weekend.
And also the permissiveness or laxness of return policies. it comes off like a feature where it's like, oh, I'm not taking any risk by buying this thing because I can just return it, no questions asked. But there are so many ways to game that. Like a scam you'll see in movies sometimes is like people will steal something from one Target and return it to the other one because you don't actually have to have the receipt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And in some cases, especially for a lot of big retailers, the headache of the paperwork and returning and processing something is, or like denying a return, it just doesn't make sense for their use of time. That's why there are that's why there's so many algorithms in place, right? Like if you order something that's not incredibly expensive from a company like Amazon, and you just get your whatever threshold to get free shipping, and then you say the box never arrived, if you're not doing that really often, they'll probably just send you another box of the same stuff.
Totally. I think the term is called spoilage, like in business in general. Like there's
or
a certain,
shrinkage, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. It's one of the two. But there is a certain allowable level of that. Like
right.
I think we had even talked about like in, this isn't the same, but in like drug cartels, they have a allowable amount of cash that just gets eaten by rats, Mm-hmm. That's like, okay. It's like, it's just like a little spoilage.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we're past it now, but I have to say it.
Nobody
talks about shrinkage. Seinfeld? Anyone? No? Okay.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So this is not a Seinfeld problem, though, because a lot of these authors are independent, They don't have the Seinfeld comedians and cars getting coffee money. Instead, what they're doing is depending upon these sales, and when these things are purchased as ebooks, they ideally you would get paid off that. You get like royalties of some sort. But when that ebook is returned, the royalties from that sale get deducted from the author's Amazon account directly, and per Kessler, there's also a digital delivery fee that Amazon charges the author. Sounds kind of BS to me. That's like the Ticketmaster fees. Yeah. But they don't get
they'd
that
argue
feedback.
It's for maintenance of servers or something.
Sure.
They'd argue it. Yeah, it's something.
So our cynicism is showing here.
But Ben, you have to imagine they probably also are getting Spotify money compared to what they would get for like a purchased physical copy of their book.
Right. And here's where the conspiracy comes into play. The running theory is that Amazon is aware of what's being called a hack. Like you can buy an ebook and you get 7 days. You have to return. You can return it in 7 days, no questions asked. And you could even hear you'll hear plenty of people arguing that ebooks are a scam, but that's a story for another day. The theory is that Amazon is aware of this trend and complicit in it, and they're allowing it to happen because they want to incentivize or push these independent authors toward the Kindle Unlimited program. And the Kindle Unlimited program doesn't have the same return policy. So it's like Kindle Unlimited is Amazon's ebook subscription plan, and that pays authors by the pages read instead of just buying, the entire work or something. So if you go to Kindle Unlimited, you read 10 pages and you decide, you decide, well, Muammar Gaddafi's Guide to Permaculture is not for me. He's just coming from a different place. Then you will, whomever owns the rights to that book would get the 10 pages. So
you know what I would buy?
What would you buy, Matt?
A little book from Lisa Kessler titled Pirate's Passion.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's real passionate. You can tell.
By the cover, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's the conspiracy theory that's going around. That's the idea. That's the speculation. Looking into it, it feels there are some questions that I would have to ask. We have to interrogate that theory because one, is Amazon not powerful enough that they could just say all books have to go to Kindle Unlimited? Maybe they aren't. Maybe they can't get the literary whales like the Malcolm Gladwells, the Stephen Kings, the J.K. Rowlings, or what have you. But then it feels a little circuitous, right? Like, there are two ways to look at it. So there are a couple ways. So Amazon could, the far end, the deep end of the conspiracy theory pool is that Amazon did this somehow, right? They did it. Instead of just saying, hey, you have to go to this model that we have, they did it on purpose, even though it feels kind of roundabout. The other more moderated or mitigated idea is that maybe Amazon saw it happening and thought, well, this works out for us. We're opportunists. Eventually, these people who are not powerful enough to change our return policies are going to have to do what ultimately makes them some money, even if it makes them less money than the previous model did. Both of those
is true.
Yeah.
We've seen them doing shady stuff like this with like designers too, for example, where like they have this Amazon marketplace where you can like upload a design and then through Amazon they'll print on demand like a shirt or a coffee mug or whatever, sort of like, you know, sites like TeePublic, but it's all within the Amazon ecosystem. And it turns out that a lot of like freelance designers are having their like designs stolen and then put into the Amazon, you know, whatever automated system and then printed and they get no money. So we know that Amazon doesn't particularly have scruples about this kind of thing in terms of, because I mean, think about it. Like if you're not John Grisham or whatever, sorry, that's the only like big author, or Stephen King, you know, you're an independent seller. You depend on those ebook sales, not only for a little cash, but to get your name out there because it's like the distribution platform of choice. Let's not forget Amazon started off selling only books, you know, and they've still kind of kept an iron-fisted grasp over that market. So they really have like small creators over a barrel. And what are you going to do? Say, well, I'm not going to put my stuff on Amazon anymore. Okay, cool. Go with God, they say, right?
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like the it's kind of like the old adage from back in the days of the West when when the U.S. was expanding westward. You probably heard this story 100 times, but the idea is you go to a small town. There's just one saloon. There's a guy playing poker, and the dealer is clearly cheating. And one guy points out to the poker player, he's like, hey, this game is rigged. And the poker player shrugs and says, I know, but it's the only game in town.